everyone. Very good afternoon and welcome to ixamBee. Hope I am audible. So if some of you can chat and write, my voice is clear. Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you everyone for attending the session on this Sunday. Thank you Santwana for finding time for joining us again, second time. It's my pleasure to talk to you. So a brief introduction, Santwana Panda, many of you know on our channel. So she cleared SEBI Grade A exam last year. She is already working as a SEBI Grade A officer with SEBI for last 1.5 years. And now she has cleared RBI Grade B, which is a dream job for many of you. And she says that this is also a dream job for her. So that's why she continued to pursue for RBI Grade B preparation while she being at job. So without wasting much time, I would give it to Santwana. But I was also very curious to know about how is life, how is work at SEBI, and why she still aspires to join RBI, both being regulator, and what are her expectations. Maybe if I feel to add something about RBI Grade B experience, I may add, but otherwise she must have also heard a lot about RBI Grade B by now, but I would like to know more about SEBI and how she thinks RBI Grade B can be a better opportunity. Then we will proceed about the preparation plan and other things. Santwana, over to you, and once again, many congratulations. You have done once again. I am really very happy for that.
Thank you so much, sir. Hello, everybody. My name is Santwana Panda. I am working in SEBI now as a Grade A officer, and I've cleared RBI Grade B 2019 and will be soon joining RBI. So, sir had asked me about my experience in SEBI and how the organization is. So, I would like to say that the experience of working in SEBI so far has been very good. It's a very dynamic organization. It's a statutory organization. It's regulating the securities market. So it is a big responsibility that SEBI plays in the financial sector. We have studied, so all of you who may have studied for all these exams would know that we are the savings driven market is mostly towards bank savings. But there is a sector called the securities market in which a lot of investors are gaining interest in. So investments are coming into securities, in share markets, in mutual funds, alternative investments. So SEBI has a major role to play in regulating the kind of intermediaries that we are regulating, and supervising the market, because it is a growing market. It has a lot of potential, and a lot of savings are getting deployed in sectors in the securities market. So SEBI, the main task of SEBI has been to regulate and supervise the market, as well as to protect the interest of investors, and it has been working in that direction. So we do policy work, we make regulations, circulars and guidelines which ensure that the intermediaries work in the interest of the investors and to grow the securities market, to ensure that people gain an interest in saving in the securities market. Then we also do the regulation and supervision work, which includes inspections, investigations, checking of frauds, checking of compliances. A lot of work is engaged in that, and there are a lot of complaints which come. So investor protection is one of the crux of what SEBI does. So in this way, SEBI has, and the sectors in which SEBI is working, it's growing, like mutual fund investments and all, they are growing in the Indian markets. So the work that SEBI has been doing is phenomenal, and it's gaining traction a lot. So in that way, I think the work experience wise SEBI is quite good. My personal interest had been toward the monetary policy side, and while the regulation and supervision, we are regulating the securities market. In RBI, it is regulation of other institutions like banks, NBFCs, cooperative banks and such. But still, the kind of work, the foundational work would be more or less the same. I had more of an interest in this side. So while staying in SEBI, I decided I would go on to pursue the Grade B exam. I was fortunate enough to get it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, Santana, I was reading today morning. This was a news. I think many of us must have read that there is a proposal that corporate also may be allowed to set up banks. So in that there was another news item about in that Business Standard. It was talking about specialized supervisory and regulatory cadre in RBI. So which
Yes.
RBI floated last year, and still 90% of the officers are actually not finding it interesting. So maybe your thinking is going into that line, because in RBI there are many other departments outside the regulation and supervision. So
Yes.
maybe, yeah,
Yes.
you are finding those areas also interesting, whether it is related to
Yes.
the government banking, forex management, or maybe currency management.
Also in case of fintech, and also fintech
Yes,
both in securities market and in banking regulation and all. So there are a lot of opportunities which are coming up, especially with the information technology regulation. So
yes,
because of that, there are a lot of preemptive changes that a regulator can take, and
yeah,
SEBI has been very proactive in that, and RBI has also been doing a lot. So cyber security, preventing cyber crimes, and all that has been a significant growth aspect in these regulatory organizations. New
yes.
topics where people might gain interest and might find an attractive opportunity to stay in either RBI or SEBI.
Hmm. No, of course. And as you also mentioned about SEBI, because the market which SEBI regulates, the
Yes.
capital market, securities market broadly, that is growing very fast. And I
Yes.
would also say ki that is coming up with lot of complex financial structures and instrument, which
Yes.
makes regulation challenging also.
Yes.
Yeah, and in
It
our
makes
country, which is like developing economy, growing very fast, so it is not only about regulating it tightly, but also facilitating the environment that the
yes.
market grows.
True. So, like a regulator cannot put a tight hold on anything. So, it has
Yes,
to give enough leeway for making the market grow also, because it's not only regulating and supervising, but also development of the market.
development of the
That is,
market. Yeah.
yeah, yes, that is
So
also important.
correct. So thanks for adding these points here. But for
Yeah.
the interest of the audience, so I, because for me and you, a lot of topic will be there talking on regulation, supervision, but our audience will be more interested in knowing about how you could crack, and you were like all India 2 rank in case of SEBI exam, and now you have cracked RBI grade B. So do you carry some magic wand, or it is the sincerity, the dedication, some strategy? Walk us through maybe phase one, phase two preparation. What are the common topics in both the exams, and how you have been doing it with the job? Now you have a very rigorous job working with SEBI. So I
Yes.
appreciate that working with SEBI is not going to be like you are just going to office, but I know you have to work sincerely. You are working on some weekends also, right? So how you could
Yes.
manage this now RBI Grade B and before that SEBI Grade A, and how this preparation together is done? What is the overall approach?
Yes. Sir, there was a distinct difference between how I prepared for SEBI and
Yeah.
RBI. Because when I was preparing for SEBI, I was at home, I was not working then,
Hmm.
and I had a full 10, 12 hour a day to prepare for SEBI. Enough time to ensure that all the concepts that were required for the examination I could give full attention to.
Hmm.
But in case of RBI, I was in a full time job, and preparing for that, it's a bit difficult because you have to manage time. There are times when you cannot find time on a particular day to study. Not only about management of time, but also prioritize what subjects you want to study, which are your strengths, which are your weaknesses, and how you want to go about it. So in this way the strategy was different. I have covered my preparation for SEBI in quite detail previously also, but a lot of things I moved forward from SEBI to RBI. But in RBI, I would say from a working person's point of view,
Hmm.
um, you would not get a lot of time, and it would be very erratic, because on some days you might have to stay late in office, some days you won't get the time. But you should never be frazzled by things like this. Situations are such that you will have to prepare with whatever time you have, with whatever resources you have. So I feel that you should restrict your resources in case you are in a working professional. and try and revise as much. That is one of the things. Then we'll go to how exactly I went about my phase one and phase two preparation. So in phase one, there are four sectors. So one is general awareness, English, logical reasoning, and quants. So previously also logical reasoning and quants were one of my strong subjects,
Yeah.
but with the limited amount of time I knew that practicing many questions won't be possible for both the sections. So this time I changed my strategy and decided to focus on general awareness and English. So with English, I'll start with English because it is one of the very scoring areas. I only gave mock tests. So I took a practice mock test series where again I did not have time to follow a full mock test because sitting for 2 hours again requires me to take out time at a specific 2 hour time and give the exam. So I gave 20-minute sectional tests with English, and I tried to score as much as possible there. Wherever I went wrong, I checked the solutions and I made sure that I'm incorporating that in my studies. Then comes to general awareness. So general awareness, again, due to paucity of time, I was preparing from one or two sources. I referred bankers data and I referred study IQ videos.
Yeah, true.
Again, study IQ was not a regular affair, but bankers data I used to follow.
Hmm.
Midway through practicing these mocks, I realized that I'm getting around 40 to 50 out of 80, which I felt that with this kind of marks I would not clear.
Yeah.
So I had to take it up, considering taking general awareness to be my strong point.
Hmm.
So I said that okay, we have to focus on general awareness much more. And I fortunately I got to know that there was a PDFs shared by Affairs Club, which were quite comprehensive in nature.
Hmm.
So I started taking notes from that because I knew that I would not be able to read the entire PDF the day before the exam. So again, I had a study group this time also, and all of them were working this time. So we delegated the task. So we divided amongst us that one person might do this month, another person doing this month, and I kept small notepads where differentiated on topic wise. So like we know the sections are appointments. There are sections like what are the events that have happened, where they have happened, and what the theme was. Questions like that which are asked. Then there are things such as like tie-ups. Which bank has tied up with which other banks, schemes, and all that. So for that, I maintained separate notepads with just the key information as to what has to be remembered from the general awareness point of view, which helped a lot during the revision process because I just had to carry a notepad, and even while I was traveling from work, I could read those.
Hmm.
And again, I utilized my time like while traveling from work. Again, I had a 30-40 minute time, so I used to give small online quizzes on apps. There are various apps available, and one can utilize any. You can just go on giving mock tests for general awareness. It helps you revise a lot.
Yeah.
And whenever we used to find time together, our study group, we used to ask each other questions on general awareness and try and memorize as much as we could. Lastly, I would go to quants and reasoning. Quants and reasoning, as I said, were my strong points, but there are some things which need to be brushed up every time. So, for example, in quant speed mathematics is of essence because RBI has restricted the sectional timing. You have to solve a number of questions within the section. So, those who are strong in quants, they will be able to score much well. So, in order to do well, you need to have that speed maths background. There are a number of websites in which on YouTube also there are various videos which will help you increase your speed. So basic calculation increases like averages,
Yes.
number system, percentages, all that. You need to have a good foundation, and once you do that, you will be finding you can solve any question in quants very easily. And it's about accuracy. You just need to maintain the accuracy and maintain the speed, and then requisite number of questions will definitely be done by anybody. Thirdly is about reasoning. Yes, sir. You were saying something.
Yeah, no, actually, in between, I thought I will add the information here about your marks because many a time student want to know. So,
Yes,
because
sir.
I know your marks, so I am sharing it here. So, this is
Yes.
in phase one, Santwana scored 68.75 in general awareness. As we know, And this is about RBI Grade B we are discussing here. So we know importance of general awareness in phase one, which is 40% weightage in phase one, and also helps you in ESI preparation. So
Yes.
68.75 in GA, then reasoning she got 25, English she got 23.5, and quant she got 24.75. So again, another lesson here I want to tell people that we shall not think of just clearing at the border because we cannot take chances. So she got 142 marks in phase one. So it is not like just clearing the cutoff, because when you want to ensure the selection, you have to be doubly sure that you are going much beyond the cutoff. So
In
this is,
fact,
yeah.
in the first step, it is much required because you should take the headache for phase two, but phase one should be solid. So you have to clear the phase one. So you have to
Yes.
ensure that you're confident of going through phase one and focus on phase two. Especially if you have time in hand when the notification is not out, you would want to focus your preparation on phase two and also phase one. But ensure that you get through phase one at least.
Yeah.
So, in that way, I had always kept my phase one strong. I had focused a lot on mocks because this time I did not have time to go through a lot of videos, concept videos, and all. But I ensured that I give sectional mocks. Again, in case of full mocks, also, I did not have a lot of time. But sectional mocks, I made it a point that at least 2 to 3 a day I used to give so that I had a lot of exposure to mocks and exposure to a lot of questions in that manner. So wherever I could find a problem, I used to check solutions from there, and that was more than enough for phase one preparation.
So same way, you have scored very well in phase two also. Your ESI score is 69, and English descriptive is 62, and FM is 87.5. And FM, you have also scored very well. And I have seen that most of the students actually have scored very well in FM. While during the preparation, student have lot of worry about how do they prepare for FM. So overall, with 32 marks in the interview, you got 250.5 marks. So
Yes.
again, much beyond the cutoff. So you are in a very comfortable position because rank is not disclosed as such by the RBI. I do not know. Once you join, you will find it out. So where
Yes.
do you stand? Because in the cadre, it is always helping in your seniority also. But the point here is the balance in the marks in both in all three ESI, FM, and English descriptive. So Santwana, you can please describe here how you prepared this while working with a difficult job. Means I understand that being working in SEBI and that too in Mumbai office where you have sufficient amount of travel time also in the job. So you have limited time overall for preparation. How you did and how the preparation of SEBI helped you in this RBI exam in phase two.
Yes, sir. So I would like to start with the ESI section. For ESI, what I did was whichever current affairs that I was studying for general awareness in phase one, whichever had a chance of being asked in the ESI section of phase two, in that I used to do an in-depth analysis. So, say for example, an index has come out in which India has scored a rank. So I used to go to the website of that agency which has come out with the index because they have a lot of index information like what are the parameters on which India scored, where India scored well, where it did not score well, and these kind of questions nitty gritties are being asked by RBI. So it's best to study from those reports from the original source of the information. Also ministry websites which have a lot of data pertaining to factual data pertaining to schemes, old schemes, new schemes as well, and what were the aims, what was the outlay like. So ESI preparation was more like take a topic from the current affairs and then find something in depth, and I referred my own notes for that. For the static portion, I referred to EduTap notes as well as my previous notes from ixamBee last year. So all these put together help me a lot, but static can be covered from any competition perspective. But dynamic part is what makes the difference in the exam. I would say this because in my study group, I scored 69, which I felt I scored a little less in that.
Little less.
But I revised a little less actually. But one
Uh,
of my colleagues who prepared from the same, we had the same notes,
hmm.
and he got 80 in
Oh,
ESI.
18
So
ASI, 80. Wow.
which was a very good score, and I believe that our notes helped a lot, and it was self-created notes only,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
we did a lot of in-depth. I personally feel that if I had started my phase 2 preparation a little earlier, then I would have had much more notes to work on and much more time to revise also. But that is my personal strategy, but I felt that it was good enough to clear.
Yeah.
Secondly, regarding FM, I feel that there are two parts to FM. One is the models and various models in leadership, motivation, topics
Hmm.
which cover general management and all, which again, all the competitive. I referred EduTap notes also, I referred my previous ixamBee notes also. All those were more than enough for that part. Then there are these one point of questions which also make a big difference, where they ask conceptual questions. Like in
Hmm.
RBI 2018, they ask questions like what is the difference between efficiency, efficacy, things like that. And this year they had questions on career progression, career path. These are not specifically covered in any notes per se, but if you can refer a good management book, I used to refer Stephen Robbins,
Hmm.
and there were two books. One was on general management and one was on organizational behavior.
Right.
Both of them, they have a lot of examples because they are done from a management study point of view. But if you
Yeah.
skip that, there are a lot of concepts, and if you can just note it down and place it in one file or folder, then it solves the job, because you get
Hmm.
a lot of information of basic managerial concepts, and that helps a lot during the exam. And these one pointers make a huge difference
Yes.
actually, because I know, because personally, because of those questions in RBI 2018, I scored 196 in the phase 2, but the
Hmm.
cutoff was 201. And if I had scored a bit more on that, at least I would have had a chance to appear for the interview. So
See.
it makes a big difference
So
there.
last year you missed RBI interview by 5 marks. Hmm?
Yes,
Five
sir.
marks. So that is
Yes,
also a motivation for many people. Those who miss that, they
yes.
have to be perseverant in their preparation, and they have to actually have patience, practice again and again, learn from the mistakes you have done. Because why I'm bringing this point here, many times student ask this question, sir, notification कब आएगा?
Huh. So then that is a, I would say it is a wrong strategy to work
Yeah.
upon. Notification will come, but I think the best thing is to start preparing. And in fact, current affairs and all can be delegated to when the notification
Yes.
comes, because the retention is
Correct.
much lower.
Correct.
But things which are static, like management, is always the same syllabus. ESI, the kind of static subjects like on budget, inflation, economic news, and all those will remain the same. So if you can work upon that and build a strong foundation, there is no way that you can't clear RBI. So it is not about waiting for the notification. Rather, you
Yeah.
take that effort. In fact, one of the learnings was that because I waited too long to for the RBI notification to come actually to give the exam, but
Hmm.
also I was just into my job, so I did not find a lot of time also. But if I could do things differently, I would definitely have approached the exam much more earlier and tried to make my foundation much more strong, so that I would be more confident going into the exam.
Yeah.
So notification will come as it is, but I think it is best to start well ahead.
Right. So, one regarding SEBI Grade A preparation, in
Yes.
SEBI syllabus, actually there are things related to say Companies Act or costing, which are not actually studied by people during undergraduation. So, what kind of questions, especially technical questions, are asked in the exam? And do student need to remember various articles or how many numericals? So what is the depth of the questions in SEBI Grade A exam?
Sir, this is the first time actually they are asking from costing and accounting after
Yeah.
a long time. So
Hmm.
it is difficult to predict what might be asked from those subjects. But
Hmm.
what I have understood is that even when they ask securities market in SEBI 2018, they
Hmm.
asked foundational questions. So
Yeah.
basics of all the topics were asked, and there are certain articles and all which are important in each subject. So there are regulations, SEBI regulations wherein there are certain important articles which have to be remembered for the purpose of the exam. But other than that, I don't think a lot of in-depth study is required, but an overall basic understanding of the concepts is more and more. So, for example, you took the topic of Companies Act. Again, Companies Act is a huge thing to study for an exam like SEBI.
Hmm.
And it is not a test of how good you are at Companies Act. Rather, if you know the basics, what Company Act intends to do, and what are the basic provisions, what are the schedules of the act, and certain important things which are related to securities market, most probably might be coming in the newspapers recently. Those are the important sections which need to be remembered. But other than that, it is an overview that we will be tested on the nitty gritties of Companies Act while in the job, but for the examination perspective, you need to have an overall point of view, and that is more than enough. So
Correct.
people need not fret about the entire thing that it is a huge syllabus to work on, but there are certain portions which needs to be focused on, and I believe that notes and summary articles from ixamBee, from editor, these are all more than enough for
Yes.
a person to be confident enough.
Yeah.
Our general understanding is that we need a lot of sources to study from, and once you get into that, it becomes a big jamela, because you have so many resources and
Yes.
so little time to study. So if I'm working, I can say I have 5 hours a day and I have 3 resources. Somebody who's not working will have 10 resources. What use does it do if you can't revise?
Absolutely. Yeah. So hearing it from you is actually important because we keep on saying the same thing. So there is no depth of information. The important thing is you understand the concept well.
Yes, yes, it's very important, and I think coaching centers, basically like ixamBee, like EduTap, they do a very rigorous search and they make very concise PDF. So I think we should trust them and we should place our faith in them and study that, because it is difficult to complete
But
things
more
on your
important
own.
is we need you to understand it. So
Yes,
because
yes,
content is one part, but I would say more important is understanding because anyhow the
yes.
content is available here or there, whether it is
Ah,
SP Robbins or Prasanna
yes,
Chandra or whether it is Datta Sundaram or Misra Puri. So these are the books. Ultimately, the definition
yes,
of GDP or GNP or NPB IRR remains the same from anywhere we
yes,
read. The important is
yes.
we have to understand it well for the purpose of exam. How many
And for that,
months? Yeah,
any resources, okay. Even YouTube videos, there are a lot of
right,
videos which explain basic concepts. So
correct.
you did not go to a Datten Sundaram to refer to economic concepts. You can very well go to YouTube and just type the topic and
Yeah,
get the information.
yes,
That is
because
more than
reading complete book on Indian economy also is not really required here.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So one question is coming about the current affairs, and
yes,
I would say both the exams.
yes.
How many months current affairs before the exam date shall be good enough to cover?
So this year, like RBI 2019, they had asked very recent, like 2 to 3 months of current affairs.
Hmm.
But in order to remain safe, and from
Yeah.
my RBI 2018 perspective, I
Hmm.
would say around 4 to 6 months is more than enough. Six,
Hmm.
and one should go backwards, starting with the most recent,
Decent one.
because 70%, 60% of your questions will be from the last 2 months,
2 months.
and rest will be from the others. So it is always better to prioritize the last 2 months and then go backwards.
Hmm.
Backwards anyway, you can remember till
Correct.
many number of months. It depends on you, but still, I think it's best to go backwards. Around 4 to 5 months is more than
Yeah. So one
enough.
important point and one student asked about the language in the interview. I
Yeah.
understand that you must be appearing in Hindi, but maybe some of your friends, sorry, you appeared in English. Some of your friends may be
Yes.
appearing in Hindi also. So one
Yes.
is the interview language, and secondly, how is your experience, the interview experience? RBI is the recent one, and you must be also remembering SEBI last time. How it is different? What if you have to compare both? So, is there
Yes.
a significant difference the way it is conducted?
Yes. So, sir, in SEBI and RBI interview, one of the things that I followed a lot is, and which was common in both the things, was that in interview, when once he asks the question, he may not give you a lot of time to answer. So you have to be to the point. You have to be very crisp and concise in your answer, and that will come with practice. So there are basic questions. So, for example, in RBI, you need to know what is the function of a bank, how they operate, what is the different types of banks. That should be at the tip of your fingers.
Yeah.
So you should have. It's better to have written answers for static questions always available, which you can just read, so that once the question is asked, you do not beat around the bush, but you are straight to the point, and that impresses them a lot, because there are a lot of analysts in the interview panel, and a person might ask a question and another person might interject, so you don't have a lot of time to put forward your views. It's best to have written clear answers beforehand. Obviously you cannot preempt all the questions, but you should be clear about your background. So in both RBI and SEBI, they asked me questions from my background. In SEBI, they asked me a lot of questions on my work in Coca-Cola. In RBI, I expected questions from my work profile in
Yes.
SEBI, but they focused on Coca-Cola only.
Oh.
And it was so. For example, my they could see that my role was in sales and marketing, but they did not focus on that. They focused on the production and manufacturing end of it. So it is not only important that you know about your own job, but also about the industry that it's you're
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So one of my friends who also appeared for the interview and cleared, he was in the oil industry. So he was asked questions like what is the contribution of oil in the Indian GDP, what is the most important item of import, how much is the export, which are the top players. So it is not only pertaining to your job profile as such, but the entire industry and whatever new is going on. Another thing which I also marked from my own interview and from other friends' interview who had given for RBI, many of them said that a lot of questions were asked based on recent current affairs with backward linkages. So, for example, in my case, during the interview time, IBC was in news, but it was not in the main news. But they asked me a backward question as to how the new amendments to IBC have changed the scenario of insolvency processes and all, and they linked it to that. So I would say in interview case, it's best to focus on 2 to 3 months of current affairs from the newspaper, mostly the main pages and the economy sections. And from there, wherever there are topics, there are terms which may be discussed, technical terms that you need to be aware of, and there may be things which may not be directly connected to RBI as such, but you need to have the backward information. So, for example, one of them was asked. Based on, because some IMF had then gave a statement on farming sector. Now, farming sector is not related to RBI, but as such, but IMF had given a report and they
Yes.
had said something. So then they induced it backwards and they said, so in farming sector, what are the main reports? What are the main committees that have been previously formed? What were their findings? These things, short notes will always help in the interview.
Yeah.
In SEBI, again, they asked me questions on securities market in the area that I focused on. So they asked me what was my area of interest, and when I stated that mutual funds and funds investment management was my interest, they asked me questions in that direction. Similarly, in RBI also, when they asked me a lot of conceptual questions on the type of banks that are there, what is the single point of difference between different types of banks, what are the new notifications with regard to banks, ATMs, and all, and also, but there might be a few questions that may be asked from your education background. So in SEBI case, they asked me on finance subjects from my management background, and in RBI they asked me questions like, does a bank require a marketing model and how does it help? So it's because it was an area of strength for me, I also led them a bit into it, because I stated certain marketing concepts which are very relevant in the banking industry, and then they went forward and asked who were the propounders of this concept, what does the concept hold relevance, how does it hold relevance, things like that. So you can lead the interview, and there are few things which you can always go in and prepare. I believe that it is best to maintain your humility throughout the interview, maintain politeness, and wherever answers are not known, it is best not to bluff, and it is best to say politely, I don't know, and go back. Because I remember in my interview also, I would have said I don't know 3 4 times, and I
Yeah.
was a bit worried about that. But
But that is
overall, I
fine
felt
because
that
we are not supposed to know everything in this earth. Not possible also. Hmm.
Yes,
You
yes,
used a word in between. I want to understand the strategy. You said lead the interview, and I also personally
yes,
believe there are ways that you can
yes,
direct the direction of the interview. So what you
yes,
did for
yes.
that, and how you do it?
Uh, So there are few questions where actually you can focus on that.
Yeah.
So in RBI they did not ask an introduction question, but in SEBI they did.
Mhm.
So in an introduction question, you can showcase what you have done well and where your strengths are. And once questions start coming in from that, you should be prepared for each. So for example, in my case, I had told a lot about my works experience in Coke, and then they asked me a lot of questions on that, how the work was, that how it will be different in SEBI, what do you think are your abilities in Coca Cola that you will bring to SEBI, because it's a different sector
Yeah.
altogether, different job altogether. So these are the things which you can preempt very easily from understanding that. And how do you think that you can map those skills to SEBI? So something which I have learned in Coca Cola, my managerial skills, how will it get mapped to working in SEBI? So
Yeah.
these things are something which you can preempt and write down. So these things are very leading. Similarly, in case of marketing was my major subject. So when they asked me a question like how a marketing model is suitable to a bank, I took the cue from there and I led it into a marketing concept, which
Yes.
I was very sure of. So when they asked me the model, I was very sure of the answer. And
Yeah. So
I
this is the
believe that,
technique actually. You use something in your answer, and you give a
yes,
word. They will pick up from there.
yes, yes, yes. Even in SEBI, if they are asking a question, say for example, a certain concept that they are asking a certain concept, you can maybe, if you have read in the current affairs somewhere that that thing has happened. So
Hmm.
in my case, there was a question like what is an open offer, and recently I had read something about what SEBI had said about open offers. So
Hmm.
while they did not ask me that, but I went ahead and I told them that I also read recently that SEBI had come up with this on open offers. So this was one of the judgments that they
Yeah.
had given, and they were quite interested to hear about it because they knew that it is not only the static part that I have learned, but also a combination of dynamic aspects also that I've built into the interview. So that helps a lot.
Yeah. So for all this updation, as you said, you have read about something open offer. Are you regularly
Yeah.
reading newspaper, and which newspaper? What is the approach for this?
So for exams, again, I could not read a lot of newspapers, at least not regularly, but I
Hmm.
was reading Financial Express
Hmm.
for some part of time in SEBI.
Yeah.
And other than that, basic current affairs and all, like any app on the phone which gives you
Yeah.
notifications, important notifications, if you can just pass through all the politics related stuff and all,
Yes,
it's more
yes,
than enough.
yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
correct.
yes.
So
So that,
here on SEBI, a lot of questions are coming. In fact, I will also be curious to know about this. So you are
yes,
going to join RBI. In RBI, we know there are provisions like Golden Jubilee Scholarship for higher studies, and there are study leave. What are the kind of benefits in SEBI
yes.
for such kind of people, those who are interested, maybe something for higher studies or something for study leave or any other things for career progression? Because student today, when they join in a job, so they look forward for doing something beyond the job, maybe 5 year, 10 year down the line.
Yes. So there are actually a lot of prospects. The study leave concept and all, I think, is similar to RPA.
Hmm.
You can there are tie-ups with various institutes also, when you can
Okay.
go and
Yeah.
pursue higher studies and take study leave, provided you have served some amount of time in SEBI, which is always the case.
Yes, it is
And
always the case. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So after you've spent some time, and they are very accommodative about that.
Yeah.
In fact, now they also encourage online learning and all. And
Hmm.
there is a National Institute of Securities Market, which is a SEBI initiative, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of certifications under a lot of intermediaries, and they are good certifications which one can have. So these certifications also SEBI encourages its employees to take. Every year you can take a many certifications based on that, and it helps you in your job, because
Yes.
these are foundational aspects which are not covered entirely during the job process, but
Hmm.
it is good to know for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apart from that, I feel there are several online courses available. So for
Yes.
financial modeling, for Excel, all these things which are very useful while on the job, which somebody can pursue in their own interest.
And how much this kind of knowledge is required for your job? Because many a time student coming from say engineering background, science background, arts
Yes.
background, they have this apprehension whether working with SEBI or working with RBI, how challenging it is going to be in the work.
Sir, I think it's a thing that you have to learn on the job, because I
Yeah.
also came from a sector which was very different.
Hmm.
So when I came also, I was apprehensive about the kind of work because I was new to the securities market. But
Hmm.
gradually you learn. It is important that, say, for example, in SEBI, you stay in one department, but you need to know what are the goings on in all the other departments. So you can maybe regularly watch SEBI website or RBI website as to what are the new policies and circulars, because we are also involved in policy work, regulation work, where other policies might have small impacts. So it is for a regulatory point, it is best to read whatever publications and whatever circulars are coming on the website and be up to date on this information, because it is very essential for the job. These are learning organizations. You need
Yes.
to constantly be updated
Correct.
on these things, and nobody can ask you to go ahead and do that. It has to come from personal initiative.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
you read from the website. For example, what I do is, when I go to office, I used to do was, I used to open SEBI website and read whatever circular
Read.
came the
Yeah.
previous day. If
Correct.
there might be nothing, there might be something, and whatever,
Yes.
even if it was not of importance to my work particularly, but I used to read it just for an understanding point of view. It
Yes.
helps because your knowledge shows in your work, and there is a lot of the senior management in SEBI. They are quite receptive to the knowledge shown by officers. So you can get acknowledged, you can get a lot of recognition for your work, and we have a lot of interaction with our senior management also, based because it's a small organization.
Yeah.
So because of that, you have a lot of interaction, and there's a lot of exposure with the industry and with several other stakeholders. It's a good place to learn, good place to grow. You if you put your mind into it, and if you learn a lot of things, your work shows, and that is appreciated a lot, actually.
Yeah, you actually said it rightly in the beginning of this answer that these are learning organizations, because if you are there to regulate the market, to supervise the market, and also to develop the market, first we have
Yes,
to know the market. We have to
yes,
understand
yes.
what is different kind of tool, different kind of financial instrument, and not only in our country, we have to also know outside India,
Other
because
countries as
then
well.
you will
Yes,
realize whether these shall be permitted or these shall not be permitted. So a
yes.
lot of learning, and it is highly encouraged by the institution. That's
Yes.
a part of the
And
job.
whatever you take out, say publication circulars that we do in our work,
Hmm.
that has to be that cannot be ambiguous.
Yeah.
Any common person should understand, and there can be no misrepresentation of your work. So a
Yes.
lot of effort goes into drafting and all. So that the language is such that it is crystal clear that this is what we want to bring out.
Correct.
So in that terms, you learn a lot, not only
Yeah.
in terms
Your
of
language has
reading.
to be crystal clear, but at the same time, many a time it has to have a scope of interpretation. So that is a
Yes, yes,
typical language
yes,
of the regulators or any government body.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that is true, because again, you have to keep the flexibility for something which
Yes.
might happen in future. You
Correct,
would
because
not
you
know
never
that.
know what is the kind of situation which is
Yes,
going to come in certain time. So there shall
absolutely.
be enough scope also for the regulator to interpret it as per the situation, appropriate
Yes,
situation. People
yes,
are asking
yes,
about the departments in SEBI. So,
yes,
like in RBI, there are various departments. So in SEBI also, you have various department, and officers keep on rotating in department. How it happens?
yes. Yes, so there are various departments in SEBI. There are regulatory and supervision departments. There are investigation departments, departments focused on surveillance, inspections, investment management. There is corporation finance, which deals with listing of companies and all.
Hmm.
So there are various departments, and it's a rotating job. So every 5 to 6 years, you are allotted a different department, which is why the learning process is very important here, because the basic set of skills you will carry from one department to another. But
Yeah.
if you're aware of the happenings around in the securities market, you can work well in any department, so to
Right.
say. And it's a rotating job. You get to learn. You get to work with a lot of people. So in that terms, exposure and all is also quite good.
Nilima, Ankit, and Abhishek, different questions, but I'm mixing it. So, about the work timings in SEBI, what is the work culture? And Nilima is also asking about the work timing. So, I will add from my side, being a woman officer. So, how
Yes,
difficult it is, and how is the overall work-life balance and the career
yes.
progression opportunity also, if you have a lot of
Yes.
aspirations to grow.
Yes. So, sir, I would say that work timings, as such, it's a 9 to 5 job, but
Yeah,
then it never ends at 5 o'clock
five
because there is
o'clock.
a lot of work. So,
Yeah.
it's not a fixed timing actually.
Hmm.
But I feel that it depends on your work. So, at
Yes.
times, in very busy departments, also,
Yeah.
depending on the workload, you might have a lot of time where you have late sittings coming during the weekends and all,
Hmm.
and sometimes there is less work, so you can easily manage within the time that is
Yeah.
given. And otherwise it depends on the type of work that you do, and if you take more initiative you have to stay late. So
Yes.
it depends. It's a totally dependent scenario, the
Correct.
Sati, about it. With regard to being a woman officer, I feel, sir, that there is no differentiation here in SEBI. It's a very open organization. Opportunities are equally there. It is up to you to grab it. So I feel that being a woman officer, there is no absolutely no issue working in an organization like SEBI, because if you are interested in the work that you do and if you learn, you are given. So there are a lot of women leaders in leadership roles in SEBI. So we have a lot of chief general managers, and we have a full-time member who is a woman. So in that way, I feel that career prospects for women are very good, and there are a lot of people that you can learn. Men and women equally, they are very good at their work in SEBI. The opportunities are more or less pretty equal for everybody. Then, sir, regarding career prospects, I would say again it depends on your work. I feel that your work gets recognized a lot. So, senior management do take a very active interest in the work that even for my level an assistant manager is doing. So, and there is a lot of interaction with at all levels, be it at a deputy general manager level, or chief general manager level. There is a lot of interaction, and your work gets rewarded. You get appreciated, and the again, if you work well, it gets appreciated, and you will obviously get very good opportunities within SEBI to work. But there are very good opportunities to get in this
Yeah.
career prospect wise. Also, I feel it is a good organization to work in.
Correct. So
Yes.
before closing, I would like to maybe you can put some words here summarizing overall experience of preparing, clearing these two highly competitive and highly desired jobs in regulatory organization, the best SEBI and then
Yes.
RBI. So just a closing remark, and after that we'll
Yes.
close because I have already taken more than expected time. A lot of questions were coming.
Yes. Sir, I would like to close by saying that both organizations, being regulatory organizations, they are very prestigious organizations to work for. The work environments and all are very good. So I think anybody who is looking to work for an organization, it is the best opportunity that you can get. I think regarding preparation and all, be it if you are a working professional or if you are sitting at home and preparing for these examinations or anywhere, I feel that strategizing the exam, strategizing your weak subjects, your strong subjects, and time management is of essence for any examinations. If you are able to get the right mix properly, then I feel the exams are doable, and you should not lose track of the purpose of the examination and the syllabus of the examination. If you focus on that and if you're confident on your preparation, I feel both organizations are very good to work in, and you will obviously clear. So I think that would more or less summarize whatever we have been discussing tonight.
So no, so nice to hear you again and discuss all these preparation and also the career which we can make at SEBI and of course at RBI. So Santwana, best wishes from my side, from my ixamBee side. We are really proud
Thank you,
to be
sir.
associated with you, uh,
Yes,
doing this
thank you so
second
much,
time with
sir.
you.
Your help also. I really appreciate that exam. We had always been very, whether I had taken the course or not, it had been very helpful during the interview process. In fact, my interview has been good because of you. So I feel very comforted by the fact that there are organizations like you who are helping out students.
No, it's my
So
pleasure to be touched in with the right people because we enjoy that is our job also. And some of student like you who actually get success after success, it is always pleasure to connect again and again, and we'll be definitely in touch in future also. Thank you, Santana.
yes,
Thanks for your time.
thank you. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.